What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, time for a little thing we like to call the mailbag. At John Middlekauff is my Instagram handle. 2 Fs. It's always weird, and I'm relatively newly married, but today we were at the doctor's, and we were in Hawaii, and ever she goes, yeah, Maria Middlekauff. When you hear your last name on someone else's name, you're like, yeah, 2 Fs, Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff. Packer fan. Here's one for the back. Personally, I'm a little worried about the back and what our run defense will look like. We got him to get more pressure on Goff, but that doesn't matter if Gibbs and Montgomery are running all over us. I feel like Goody and LaFleur know their jobs are on the clock, so they felt they had to make a big swing. It's boom or bust, no in between. Only time will tell who won. For it to be a success, the Packers, they need at least one Lombardi in the next 3 seasons. Well, they've only been to one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre since 98. So I would say, I understand winning a Super Bowl. It's easy to say that. Winning a, NBA Finals. Like, if the Lakers don't win an NBA Finals with Luka, it's a disappointment. When you make it to the championship, even if you lose, it's pretty impressive. Like, you guys have been to a lot of NFC Championship games, but winning that game and going to the Super Bowl and winning the NFC, to me, would be a pretty big deal. So if you tell me in the next 3 years you get to a Super Bowl, I think that's a pretty big success. I said this earlier. If you think they would give him almost $140 million guaranteed, which is about the same amount, it's a little bit less than they gave Jordan Love with a questionable back, I just think you're on crack cocaine. The back thing, to me, is nothing. I don't think it exists. I really don't. Because I can't imagine you going, yeah, we're going to give him a contract, but his back might have some issues. That'd be malpractice. That'd be a fireable offense. I think they made the trade because they justified in their head, like, how do we ever get this player? How do we ever get a player like this? And the answer is you don't really, unless you do this. But I'm with you. There's a lot of risk involved because think about who you have to go through. Like you said, the Lions, Penei Sewell is going to be on them. You think Micah Parsons can shed Penei Sewell in the run game? He can't. I mean, no one can. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata for the Eagles. Those teams want to run the ball down your throat. Washington, their offense is a little softer because it's a little more spread with Cliff. But, the Rams can be a physical offense. The 49ers can be a physical offense. We know the Seattle's going to want to run the ball. I mean, the NFC has a lot of run-heavy type teams. Who else is good in the South? Tampa. I mean, Bucky Irving had a big year last year. They got 2 good tackles. So it's a run-heavy conference. This is not the NFC is not the AFC, where it's like Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar. Like, just go out there, sling that pill, baby. The NFC is like, buckle up. We plan on running power and outside zone till the cows come home, and then play action off that. I was thinking with the Garrett trade request earlier this year, would it have been a way to package Deshaun Watson into that and offload part of his contract? Like, if Garrett went for a first and a third, could the Browns say, give us a first and a 5, and you get Garrett and Watson? Garrett on the Browns is kind of in limbo. Oh, is a Lambo in a trailer house situation. It's like that meme with the Lambo next to the trailer house. I agree a little bit, yes. Not like they are just one player away from winning a ton of games. Would be curious to hear your thoughts. I do think he would have gone for a lot more than a 1 and a 3. I know he's older than Micah, but I think he gets multiple 1s. He's that good of a player. I think he's the most, you could argue he's just the most purely talented player in the NFL. Trent Williams is older now. You could say like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Like he's on the short list of just pure raw talent. Might be number 1 overall, regardless of position. I just have a hard time going, okay, let's just say I have to give you one of a first and I take Deshaun Watson as well. I don't think he's tradable. I don't think I would be interested as a GM to get Myles Garrett to Deshaun Watson to essentially cut him. So I'm just taking his money to ruin my books to cut him. Because whenever Deshaun Watson is cut, however this plays out, he'll eventually be cut, whether that's in a couple years from the Browns. I don't think he ever plays in the NFL again. I don't think he ever plays another snap in the NFL. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not throwing that around. This is not a moral stance either. I don't give a shit. We know the teams do not care. If Deshaun Watson was a good player, no one would care. But he's atrocious on the field. I mean, he's objectively one of the worst players in the league the last couple of years. And then you factor in all the baggage. I don't think he's touchable because he's not a backup quarterback. It's why if this Russell Wilson thing doesn't work out, kind of feels like his career is kind of coming down the home stretch, unless he's just cool with being a backup and is like, is he too famous to be a backup quarterback? And obviously, Russell has nothing in common with Deshaun Watson from a negative standpoint, beside him just being kind of annoying. With the Packers taking Golden in the first round and going all in on the Micah trade, do you think this has to do with the new president, Ed Policy, or just the right circumstance? I thought Gudikins had a quote that was like, he didn't say yes or no. He just said, do it. They didn't have to run it by him like he was the owner. Could be screwing that up. This has been a long weekend, and I remember that quote was like on Thursday. Uh, I think it has less to do. I think this trade happens if Murphy's there, if Ed Policy's there, if whoever's the president. This trade happens because Mike is available and Gudikins wanted him. And LaFleur said, like, I knew when Goot came down to my office and said this might be a possibility. And that could have been a month ago. But, like, to me, this felt like a front office led pursuit. And the one thing Goot said, I'll call him Goody. I don't know if anyone calls him Goot. It's probably easy to call him Goody. I think I'm messing. I don't know if his name's Gudikins. I could be screwing that up, the pronunciation there. But we'll just go with Goody. He said, was it the Khalil Mack trade? That he felt now he's like, we probably wouldn't have got him anyway, but one thing I regret about that situation is I was late. I felt late to the party. And I wonder if he's looking at it in this situation of like, I'm not going to be late to the party when it comes to this trade. And he was probably one of Jerry's first calls and then just kept on it like a sales guy. Probably like, I've never been a part of one of these trades in terms of being a GM, but I would imagine you kind of got to be a little annoying because when you end up trading for a guy that was, let's face it, for a long period of time, not available, you're probably wearing them out. Like, hey, any interest? What would it take? And then when the dialogue starts, it's a lot because you have created the dialogue for months when he's telling you no. And then once I think it becomes a little bit of a stronger possibility, you go, hey, Matt, are you on board with this? Obviously, Matt probably was like, sure. And then you get your defensive coordinator involved. Like, are you very comfortable with this scheme fit with this player? And once he gives you the go ahead, because if you make the trade and your defensive coordinator's not fully on board, it could make you look bad. So I think the coaches were clearly on board. The GM led this pursuit. And Ed Policy is not really in the business of telling you when and where to make personnel decisions. Right? That's not really his gig. And I think Gudikins also said that he told him about this because it was such a big deal, but he doesn't bother him. Like, he doesn't tell him when he's making practice squad moves. Right? If he's making a move with the 53rd guy on the roster, cutting him and bringing a guy up, like, he's not telling him. But this is a type move that you keep everyone involved. But Ed Policy's job is not to tell you when and when not to do this. Now, maybe from a financial standpoint, you have to run by some of the numbers, but this is why the Packers are good. Their GM and their head coach run the football. There's no the Ed Policy, the Murphy guy, like Murphy maybe a little more than Policy, is not dictating the football decisions. But I'm with you. You make this trade, you're in win now mode. Uh, I like the Packers before this move. This move makes me a little more nervous, to be completely honest. Uh, is one of my favorite bets on the board was taking the Packers to win the division, and I liked him when it was like plus 250. So $100 gets you 250. You bet $100 if you win, you make $350. If you bet $1,000, you win 3,500. Now the odds are, you know, basically, I think I looked, it was like plus 130 or plus 140. So they're diminished dramatically. I also think there are just human elements to this. There have been reports about Micah in the locker room. Just, it's not like he's a bad guy, but he's just kind of into Micah. When that's, Dak's the opposite, Zach Martin's the opposite. By all accounts, CeeDee Lamb's the opposite. So you're getting this big personality that's kind of into him, who's going to this place that has kind of like a low key, easygoing culture, but everyone kind of buys in. I don't know. It just makes me a little nervous. It could work. Like I'm not expecting it to derail them, but everyone's expecting fireworks. And my first response, and maybe it's just my natural inclination, when everyone's scared, I'm probably more bullish, and when everyone's bullish, I'm a little more down on it. Maybe it's just playing the stock market for years. It's kind of developed that habit. Now, you can't always just hang a left when everyone's hanging a right. Sometimes the left will take you right into the tsunami or the fire. So I'm not anti this move from the Packers standpoint, but we have to acknowledge, separate from the money, there are risks. I mean, this is a guy that, does he listen to the coaches now? Because he goes, well, I'm the highest paid guy here. So this defensive coordinator that is not some, I like Halfley a lot, but he's not some well-established Vic Fangio that can tell any player anything, or Brian Flores. So if Parsons at a point, if he doesn't like what Halfley's saying and doesn't agree, freelances, like, is Halfley lighting him up like a Christmas tree? I don't know. I just think there are some inherent risks with this situation. In football, you can say basketball too. Anytime you get these big name, big talent, high price guys that move teams, especially to like smaller markets, it can go really, really well. And you can become Micah Parsons could become a fucking legend. Or it's like, it could get weird. We are extremely excited to announce our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. Everyone knows and loves their hotels and casinos, but now you can use the top-rated Hard Rock Bet sportsbook to place all your NFL bets this season. Hard Rock Bet is the only legal sportsbook in the state of Florida and is also available in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, and Colorado, with more states to come. You can also play on Hard Rock Bet's online casino if you are in New Jersey. As we gear up for the NFL season, sign up for Hard Rock Bet and make a $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Head over to Hard Rock Bet, sign up, and make your first deposit today. I was born, raised, and still reside in the suburbs of Philly. All my life, I'm 25. The entire area are big Eagles fans. As a guy who roots for my fantasy team and doesn't have one team to root for, it's been super annoying dealing with the Eagles fans. They seem to be even worse than your average crazy football fan. As a supporter of the Eagles fans, I've been a human that lived in that area, that really liked it and appreciated it. I think all fans are a little crazy, and I don't think Eagle fans are that much different than anyone else. Given your time working for and being around the organization, as well as your experience with people fans from other teams and circles, do you also find Eagles fans to be specifically intolerable? Love the show. I really don't. I think if you, maybe because of the area, like, you're just going to be more negative in the Northeast. Their inclination to lean negative in Philly, in New York, and in New England, just with their disposition as an area, is different than we are growing up in Northern California, or people in Southern California, or people in Seattle, or people here in Arizona. Even like Kansas City. It's just the wiring of the people. But I would say, what's the hell's the difference between Eagles fans and Jets fans or Giants fans or New England fans? Like, if your team sucks, you get mad. And if your team's really good, you start feeling yourself. It's called sports. I hated Philadelphia in the winter. I don't like living in the cold. If I want to go to the cold, I either get in a plane or get in my car and go there so I can leave. But in terms of the character of the city, the character of the people, I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I'm born and raised, spent 30 plus years in California. Now I've lived in Arizona for 4+ years. So the overwhelming majority of my life has been spent in California slash the West Coast. But those couple years in Philadelphia, I mean, really changed my perspective of like, I might be born on the West Coast, but I got a little East Coast, Northeast in me. I actually have a lot of different parts of the country. I feel I got a little Southern in me. I definitely have a Northeast personality at times in me. I have a chill California side, but I love Philadelphia and I love the fans. I really did. I really, really enjoyed it there. And yeah, I mean, in a weird way, still like have buddies on that work for the team and root for Howie to do well. If you were the Steelers GM, would you have entered this year with this team? And what would you do post the 25 season? I think it's like someone told me last night about Belichick's quarterback. I'm like, why did they take this guy? And this guy's response was he didn't have many options. And I think when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're drafting whatever 20th. You go, what are you going to do? Trade for Geno Smith? Sign Sam Darnold? If they would have re-signed Justin Fields at the number in which the Jets did, that would have been insanity. That would have been the craziest thing the Steelers have ever done. So thank God they didn't do that. Listen, the Rodgers thing is probably way more bust than boom, but it could work out if they can run the ball, if they play good defense. They clearly didn't love having this high price safety and not being able to cover. So they get Slay, they get Jalen Ramsey, they kind of free themselves from Minka's money. They double down on TJ. They think they're going to be better on defense. They historically have had the tall, long corners, physical corners. I mean, both Slay and Jalen are physical corners. I mean, Jalen's a hitter. Uh, DK doesn't really feel like a Steeler, but who knows? I think the Steelers could be solid. I think they could be similar outcome as last year, like the last couple years, 9, 10-ish wins, first round and out, but be a better team. I just don't know what else he was supposed to do. Like Baker Mayfield wasn't available. He couldn't just like trade for Jared Goff. So he had to have someone play quarterback. Shador Sanders, the third stringer on fucking Cleveland. So that surely wasn't the answer. I just think it was the best option, and ideally you get a quarterback moving forward, but that's easier said than done. It's like, well, you need a quarterback. Okay, we'll draft Kenny Pickett. Well, that's going to be a disaster. We need a quarterback. Okay, draft Mac Jones. That's a disaster. I think sometimes when you force the quarterback, for every Mahomes and Josh Allen, you get some of these just epic train wrecks. Even Lamar, like the Ravens didn't force it. Remember? They drafted a guy ahead of him. So I think you're just in a tough situation. It's like it's easy for me to say, well, we just got to find a quarterback. Well, okay, who? When? Well, if you win 9, 10 games, you're drafting in the 20s. You're not drafting Garrett Nussmeier. You're not drafting Sellers. You're not drafting probably Cade Klubnik. You wouldn't think. And who knows? Is he even good enough for the bag? Curious to hear your thoughts on this article. Essentially, the NFL has called out Nielsen on diluting their viewership numbers, saying it cost them millions of dollars when they inaccurately underreport total viewers for the game. I just find it funny that the NFL is running circles around every other major sports league in America and is still fighting for every penny. Do you think this means that the NFL and its teams are still quote unquote undervalued and could potentially be worth a few hundred million more? I would say the NFL wiring as a business right now is very similar to Alabama and Saban. You're thinking like, why? I remember thinking this the last like 4 or 5 years with Nick. How do you still care this much? How do you still care this much? And it felt like he did. He would still lose it. He was still so driven. His teams were still so buttoned up. It was like, it's incredible to have this stamina. I'd say the same thing for Pete Carroll. Like, how is he so excited for life to coach the Raiders at 73, 74 years old? I get Bill. He has this like FU to the Patriots. It feels like that's the only reason he's coaching. Just as an FU to Robert Kraft. Feels like Pete Carroll's just driven to coach. The NFL is just driven to make money. We've I've known a couple of these guys that are like business owners that essentially own like family businesses, so their sons are part of their businesses. I've known farmers like this, and they'll be like 75 years old. It's like they're driving around the ranch at 6 a.m. It's like, why aren't you just at your house in the country club relaxing? Why aren't you at Maui? Why aren't you in the Bahamas? Like, what are you doing this for? It's like that's all they know. In the NFL right now, it's like it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. And they just keep going after it for more. I would say this. I didn't read the article. I saw the headlines separate from what you sent me. I think these like if YouTube or Apple says that 75,434 people listen to the podcast on Apple and 10,025 uh 10,253 people listened on YouTube. Like you have an exact number. You know that many people click based on if you watch for more than a minute, if you listen for more than 5 minutes, whatever the requirements are, you know. How does television have any clue? If I'm watching television at my house, let's say I pull up YouTube TV, Thursday night, Cowboys Eagles, and Patty and Ron, my neighbor, uh, Sam and Julie, who live down the street, and 10 other people that are their friends as well, come over to my house and watch the game. Let's assume I'm getting credit, me and my wife, for watching the game. What if I have 15 other people at my house watching the game? How can they possibly account for that? Now, I think we all agree and we know that a lot of people are watching football games, right? Like, if you told me 7 million people watched Belichick, but 15 million people watched the first 30 minutes of that game, I'd be like, I believe you. But could that number be 5 million people more, 3 million people less? I think it's a purely educated guess. I was thinking about this today because, was it yesterday? It might have been Sunday. It was Sunday because ABC had Miami, Notre Dame, and ESPN had South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Well, when that game ended, it became a bunch of like baseball talk about Major League Baseball. And I've loved sports my whole life. I've made a career out of it. It's pretty clear less people than ever are watching baseball, right? It's just not culturally relevant. And you kind of feel that at times with the NBA. But when I see these numbers, if you tell me 10 million people watch the finals, yeah, that number could have been 8. It also could have been like 15. If you factor in bars, if you factor in, group settings, how do you account for, whenever I travel, you realize, God, Fox Sports 1 is on at every airport I've been to over the last 6 months. So every time I go there, Colin's on. So I'm starting thinking, like, when I was on with Colin, imagine all the people in the airport that's on. Now, the sound's not necessarily on, so do you get credit? Do you not get credit? But it's all kind of an educated guess. I mean, the biggest scam of all time, not even close, was terrestrial radio. That some of these people in big markets are like, yeah, I think 100,000 people are listening. Well, it could be, or it could be 30,000, or it could be 500,000 people. Now, there are certain shows like Howard Stern in his prime in New York, or Mike and the Mad Dog, or Rush Limbaugh, Jim Rome. Clearly, in like the 90s, a lot of people were listening to certain specific shows. But it was a complete educated guess based on meters representing a segment of society on how many people were listening. In television, Nielsen to me is a little bit like that, which is crazy because the amount of money that's on the line, specifically for the NFL, you're talking billions of dollars in these sales. So if you think about it, if you're going to pitch to Netflix and Amazon Prime and these people, and you say concrete numbers, because they'll know. So when you watch Amazon Prime, when I watch Amazon Prime, I keep saying Bezos, he's not even around anymore, but Amazon knows exactly how many people are watching, for how long, specific, like where else you go. If you're watching on your computer, do you buy anything? They have all the information. Television has none of that, and radio legitimately has none of that. So why I say, hey, advertisers, you are getting scammed in terrestrial radio. Come over to where we push product, and you can quantify it. And that's why they have, and they continue to, and that's why where the money's flowing. Major Longhorns fan here. I know Arch looked bad against Ohio State, but my question isn't about that. My question is, why the hell was Sark calling quarterback power over and over again in the red zone? He's athletic, but he's not a big body like Cam Newton. Sark willingly put his quarterback, who was already struggling, in a position where he's meeting a linebacker in the hole. They ran a quarterback sneak. Was it fourth down in the goal line? I forget. That game feels like a lifetime ago. Whenever they ran a quarterback sneak, it might have been the worst. I saw someone tweet this, and I agreed. It's the worst quarterback sneak I've ever seen. The offensive line didn't know what to do. Arch like barely moved. I mean, it was pretty bad. Now, I heard someone else say the thing with quarterback sneaks, especially with a new quarterback, it's not a play you practice, so it can be a little hit or miss. Uh, yeah, they clearly were not good in the red zone. I heard someone break down like the last 4 years of Sark. They have been getting progressively worse in the red zone. Um, I don't know. I'm with you on Arch. He's athletic. Like Caleb Williams is athletic. You're not going to run quarterback power with Caleb Williams, but you can get him out on the move to throw. Like I thought that was part of Arch. But are you going to run like Arch like he's Cam Newton or Kyler Murray? Clearly, he's not that comfortable. Now, again, Ohio State is going to be one of the best teams you play all season long, potentially the best. But like when you play Georgia, Florida, and A&M, Arch is going to feels like a little intimidated to like lower his shoulder against these guys, thinking that he's faster than these guys. Uh, I defend Sark that I felt like he was feeling out his quarterback and trying to figure out what he did well and what he didn't do well, specifically against a really good opponent. Theoretically, after a bad season from both programs, could Bama and USC do a coach trade? The schools agree to assume the contracts of each. Kalen would get to go back to the West Coast, and Lincoln could go back to the South. Both are big guys, are big name guys. And after another bad season, I think they would sign up for a change with their money preserved. It's a good question. I think if Lincoln Riley had a bad season, I don't think Alabama would want any part of him. I think USC would be more open to DeBoer than I think Alabama would be to Lincoln. But I'm with you. Neither one of these guys, it would get way uglier because of the standard who he's replacing in Alabama, where I could see if they just went like 6-6, Kalen being like, I want to quit, but no human alive could give up that type of money. So he's kind of in a predicament. With Lincoln, I would imagine USC this year's like 8 or 9 wins. Bama, you can convince me everything's on the table right now. If the Bengals defense is as bad as it was last year, how close to a 2011 Aaron Rodgers does Joe Burrow have to be to drag the Bengals to the playoffs? Rodgers that year, 4,600 yards, 45 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Packers went 15-1, 32nd in total defense. If you told me Burrow right now is 45-6, I would change my opinion. I would put the Bengals in the playoffs. But if you told me the Bengals had the 32nd ranked defense, I don't think it'd be possible for them to go 15-1. I think the most wins they could have would be like 12 or 13 in this day and age. I just think the quarterback play is so much better in 2012 or 2025 than it was in 2011. I mean, Stafford was there. Who would have been the Vikings quarterback then? I don't even know. I'm going to click Cincinnati to see who they play. They play Flacco, so they would win that game. Jags could win that game. But then you just get like at the Vikings, at the Broncos, the Lions, the Packers, the Steelers, Pats at home, the Ravens, the Bills, the Ravens, Kyler Murray. Yeah, I mean, if he had a historic, like, no doubt about it, MVP year, 12 or 13 wins. 13 probably feel like the max if your defense was atrocious. Tessitore is so bad. Dude definitely lives and dies by what people say about him on Twitter. I saw Peter Schrager tweet this, and I don't necessarily disagree that like he really appreciated Joe Tessitore's passion and how excited he is. Because a lot of people in sports, I would say broadcasters, podcasters, definitely people on TV, sometimes feel like they don't even like it. Like, why are you just doing this for the money? And the answer is yes, especially for some of these people with the amount of money they're making. Like, do you like football? I remember when I stayed with Colin like a month ago, we were just like watching shitty preseason football, having cocktails and ordering food and just talking about like football philosophies. And I think there are a lot of people that talk about sports that would not want to watch preseason football. And I think a lot of people in this business don't necessarily like it. Where there is no disputing that Tessitore gets really excited. I'd argue it's a little over the top. I thought it was a little much this weekend. I mean, there were moments where it felt like he was just screaming at every play, which I would, if you told me you get that or you get a guy that's monotone and sucks, I guess I will take that. But I am in agreement that it is a little overkill. Now, I will say this. One of my best friends, dude that officiated my wedding, I was in his wedding. Guy Haberman is now the 49ers play-by-play guy this year because Greg Papa got sick, and he does Big Ten games. He did Pac-12 games for everyone forever. I'm talking football, basketball, baseball. That profession is really hard. Whenever someone that doesn't quite know sports asks me, like, do you want to call games? No. One, I can't. Like, I don't have that capability. I don't have that talent. And two, I don't even pretend or think that I could. Like, I tried play by play for a couple games in college for college baseball at Cal Poly on like internet radio. And I remember thinking, this is impossible. So it's a very difficult thing to do and be good at, but I do think his style can be a little much. But I say the same thing for Gus with Joel. Like I don't mind Gus, but I think sometimes it's like, okay, we get it. It's like, geez, Louise. And Gus is like that's kind of his lane. Tess treats some of these moments. It's like and he's a boxing guy, like a boxing knockout, which again, you feel like a hater if you're talking shit, and I do respect that profession is really hard to do. If you took a random sports fan and put him in that seat, I'm not talking the analyst seat, be like, oh, it's a great catch, Joe. Oh, that's a big time hit. Oh, he's got to get down in the hole. I'm talking about calling the play by play, radio or television. I don't think the common person understands how hard you would fail and how embarrassing you would sound. I'm talking about someone that knows sports. So it's just not really my style. Again, it's hard. There's different strokes for different folks. Congrats on the baby. Wife and I are expecting our first in February. We actually went to the doctor today. And I don't think I quite realized once we got in, Maria knew, and she had kind of mentioned it. Maybe I wasn't totally paying attention. She's like, oh, this is the big appointment where we go over 100 things to make sure your baby, just has toes, heart, brain. I'm like, so you find bad stuff here? Like every once in a while, yeah, something devastating happens. My heart just started pounding. I'm sitting there. I started like praying. I'm not even religious. It's an exhilarating 20 minutes. Everything's good so far. So we're good in the clear. Are you on the Packers for the value? Lions have a better quarterback, better wide receiver two, better tight end, better running back two. I mean, Josh Jacobs is better than Montgomery. If you want to take Gibbs over Jacobs, okay. I mean, Josh Jacobs is a high-end player. Better O-line, and Hutchinson is probably the best defensive player between the two teams. And I agree. I would take Hutchinson over Micah Parsons. Do you think losing Ben Johnson sets all of that off? I think losing two coordinators is a really big deal. When you are John Harbaugh's proven that he can go through coordinators and it all kind of works out. But he's been doing it for 20 years. Right? We have seen Jim Harbaugh, we saw him at Michigan, like when he gets the wrong coordinator, it can kind of go bad. So I just don't know. I'm not acting like the Lions can't win this division. And you could argue there's value in betting the Lions. Maybe because if you told me that Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson had returned, they would be the heavy favorites to win this division. But what matters in the NFL? When for the most part, like the gap between the Packers and the Lions is not that big, right? You would agree with that. It's not like you guys are some unbeatable team and they're just like an average good team. Like they're pretty freaking good. They had Micah Parsons. But coaching really, really matters. So who do I feel better about? Matt LaFleur or Johnny Morton, who for whatever reason is 55 and no one ever wants to make him his offensive coordinator. Halfley, who had the best Packer defense in a long time, or a guy that's a young coach that's never been a coordinator. Now, by all accounts, is going to be good. I feel better about the Lions on defense than I do offense. I just think sometimes when you lose the ingenuity, the innovation, the creativity, like you can't fake that. It's why it's like, hey, this guy's our next CEO. It looks great on paper, and then he gets in charge, and it just fails. It happens all the time in all sorts of industries. You put people in positions, you go, God, this guy checks every box. Look who he's worked with. Look what he's accomplished. Look who signs off on him. And then he gets in the position, this is not good. And some people, you're like, look at his resume. It sucks. Yeah, he's just a natural. No one would have thought when he was 28, Theo Epstein was going to be one of the great GMs. You know what? He's got a great feel for it. It's pretty fucking good. I would have bet everything I had against Sean McVay working out. I'm like, wait, 30, 31-year-old is going to be a head coach in the NFL in the internet era? No chance. Not going to work. He's a Hall of Famer. So you just don't know. And when it works, it's incredible. No one knew Ben Johnson was Ben Johnson 4 years ago. 2 years ago, Ben Johnson's turning down jobs. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna wait. Redskins are like, what? We want to make you the head coach. It's like, no, I'm good. Turn your plane around. But no one would have thought that 2 years previously. So you just don't know. And that variable, again, we're talking insurance, mitigating risks. It could go well, could be fine. Or it could be a major problem. And they could just be off. Because calling plays is there's a feel element to it that can't be quantified. I saw, I guess, the Browns assistant GM is some chick, and she was like talking about the quarterback situation. She was like talking data points. I mean, she's clearly very analytical. She's talking like a robot. It's like you're dealing with people here. These are people, like with brains and hearts and souls and the tangibles or intangibles. It's impossible to quantify. So yeah, there's data points on specific stuff, how fast a guy can run, how many catches he's going to have. But you can't quantify what a guy's going to be like as a play caller. You can't quantify how in tune Ben Johnson was. One, he clearly a natural, but two, like just understood his personnel and had been there the whole time, and then bringing in a new guy. I'd say the same thing for Aaron Glenn. Though I do think, defensively, if they're healthy, they're going to be pretty good. They got a lot of good players there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm betting on the Packers structure, coach, the GM, just the whole operation. That's what I'm betting on. And for the first time, not saying Dan Campbell can't win the division. I'm a Dan Campbell fan, huge fan. I fucking love Dan Campbell. But when you're a CEO head coach, like if there's a drop off, that can cost you a couple games. And the difference of winning 15 games and 12 or 13 games could simply be the coordinator. And if you win 12 and the Packers win 13, all of a sudden you're a wild card. They win the division. I'm not acting like the Lions are going to win 7 games here, but I am fascinated. And I wasn't even like Colin that made a big deal about the Hall of Fame game. It's like they were just not buttoned up. It's like, yeah, I'm more worried about legitimately third quarter tie game, 3rd and 7. Felt like Ben Johnson knew what to call. Does Johnny Morton? I don't know. All the other NFL teams were like, yeah, we don't really believe he does because we don't make him the offensive. Teams all over the league could have made him the offensive coordinator for years. Jim Harbaugh could have. No one ever did.